Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
All right, welcome, Brewer fans, to the Brew Crew Review Podcast. Scott, start this thing off.
All right, let's see. Scott's here, Craig's here, Vince is on sabbatical, Craig's on Chad's on sabbatical. Tom Carter is giving us great inside anonymous information, but he doesn't want us to use his name. And we're going to talk about potential trade candidates coming up at the deadline. Finally, right? That's what everybody wants to hear. What are we going to do to make this team better?
Yeah. All right. So here we are. Well, let's start off by congratulating the two Milwaukee Brewers All-Stars, and that would be reigning NL Cy Young Award champion Corbin Burns, whose name's an All-Star, and also best closer in Brewer history, Josh Hader, also made the All-Star game. Unfortunately for Brewer fans, Josh Hader will be missing the All-Star festivities and the All-Star game due to family responsibilities. And also, most of the times that I miss out on the podcast or seem like I'm off, it's mostly because I'm overwhelmed with those same type of things, family responsibilities. Anyway, so
yeah, I got the same thing here with this dog, Penny. I mean, she's only 1 year old. She's out of control, So yeah, we all have. I'm sure that I'm sure your kids are probably more well behaved than my dog, but yeah, I mean it's a lot of responsibility for all of us, but we try to get through it. And we're not. This isn't a slight against Josh Hader. He is a newborn. That's less than a year old. So I think I don't know. I've never been a parent, but I assume it requires a lot.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm unprepared for parenthood still.
All right, so let's do a quick recap. Unfortunately, I think none of us guessed the Brewers were going to be turds last week during the homestand. We lost. The Cubs took 2 or 3 from us at home, and the Pirates took 2 or 3 from us at home. It was a 2-4 week, and it was terrible. And somehow we're still in the lead to the division because the Cardinals has had a pretty horrific 10-game stretch themselves during that same period of time. And we've been able to hold a 2-game lead going into today's taping, which is, I think, the 12th of July. So, in fact, I think it might be Chad's birthday today. Now I think about it. It's definitely this week. So happy birthday to Chad.
Happy birthday, Chad.
Yep. I think it might be today. Well, anyway. All right. So, I guess, do we need to talk about any All-Star Brewer snubs? I mean, besides Hunter Renfroe? I know Vince mentioned, but
no, Chad's birthday is in a couple days yet also, but let's see. Hunter Renfroe? No, I don't think he was quite as snubbed as we may have played it out to be, but I don't think anybody was really snubbed at all for the Brewers. I don't know.
Yeah, so I guess it's a little bit shocking to realize that the Brewers don't have an offensive all-star this year. It's a little bit alarming, but
it's alarming, but not shocking at all.
Yeah. Oh, I guess
I would have been shocked if anybody did make it, any of our bats, but yeah.
So the draft has not happened yet. It's coming up this Sunday here before the All-Star game. And the Futures game is also that game. And I want to give kudos to a couple of Brewer prospects who made the Futures game this year. And that would be 18-year-old Jackson Trio, outfielder, made it. He's going to actually be the youngest player in the All-Star game. He's having a breakout season, formerly signed out of Venezuela. So, in fact, we'll talk about him on our next episode and have maybe a prospect profile. He went from outside the MLB's top 100 prospect to now being midseason ranked 20th overall prospect in baseball by MLB, actually by Baseball America. MLB.com ranked him, I think, 38th or something. But anyway, so that's pretty exciting. We'll talk about that in our next episode, hopefully. But kudos to him for making the futures game. Also, left-handed relief pitcher Anthony Kelly made the futures game as well. And so we'll talk about both those guys on future episodes, but hopefully Brewer fans can catch them at the futures game this year. So
nice.
Couple of Brewer representatives both at the All-Star game and at the futures game. It's awesome. So good luck to all of them coming up. And going into the break, then the Brewers obviously are going to be neck and neck with the St. Louis Cardinals for a division lead, which is basically where we were at prior to the start of the season. And we kind of knew going in that the rest of the teams weren't going to be a factor. And that's kind of how it's played out. I think that we weren't two factors. I don't think we thought the Brewers offense was going to be this bad. And we also had the unfortunate that Freddie Peralta has missed significant time and Brandon Woodruff has pitched or missed significant time. So having two of our three aces out for a good portion of the year has led us to find out that we don't have much starting pitching depth, so to speak. And somehow we've been able to maintain, in first place for a good portion of the first half I think we were teetering on tanking parts of the season because of our health. So I think the Brewers are lucky to be in the position that they are. However, I know, Scott, you wanted to point out, I know we spent all offseason talking about potential free agent targets, and of course the Brewers signed none of them, but we did sign Andrew McCutchen to a 1-year deal. And we traded for Hunter Renfroe. So those are kind of our two big offseason moves. I don't know that those were earth-shaking moves, and we didn't think so at the time. However, some of the guys that we were clamoring for them to trade aren't necessarily having spectacular seasons, while some of them are. Did you want to review some of those, Scott?
I did. I just wanted to look at kind of what people just really, really briefly, just look at what was our sort of wish list in the off season and people that we thought were kind of targeted, and just kind of see how we're doing, just so that we get an idea. Just because, obviously it seems like every year I always throw out some random big name free agent acquisition that we're never going to sign. But it's kind of interesting to take a look back and just think about how obviously a couple of these guys could have probably really helped us, but a couple of them could have, potentially made it a pretty significant payroll issue, and we would have got next to nothing out of them. So I don't know. I was just briefly thinking, we could throw some names out there. I just think, let's see. Well, Chris Bryant was probably one of the names that was at least thrown out there. He's had a pretty terrible season so far. Eddie Rosario was another one. He has barely played this year, and he's unfortunately he's had some kind of crazy injury with his eyes or something. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's not hitting. But he's finally coming back, so we'll see. He's kind of an incomplete, I suppose. The only names that I could think of, just looking at all the possible free agents that the Brewers had any chance of signing, that would have been a decent signing for us so far, obviously just for these first few months, was probably either Kyle Schwarber or the one that you were really trying to see if we could get this guy, was Jorge Soler. He's having a great year, so yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on all this craziness?
Yeah, I don't know that he's having that great of a year. He's hitting .217 with 13 bombs, but he has been injured also. So obviously Renfroe's numbers are better than that, and who we did also trade for. But yeah, the problem is signing some of the bigger name guys like Chris Bryant and obviously Nick Castellanos was out there and Kyle Schwarber, but they were requiring, 5+ year contracts at many, many millions of dollars. And the Brewers, I don't think, as the small market team, since we already have so much tied up in Yelich, could have afforded to make a mistake by signing one of those guys on a long-term deal and then turning into a pumpkin type of, so to speak, as well, and not having productivity. So if you really look at Andrew McCutchen's numbers and knowing that it's like a kind of lower risk contract because of the fact that he's up there in age and was willing to take a 1-year deal. I mean, McCutchen's numbers, even though, especially in the last month, he's really turned it on. I mean, for the year, he's hitting .253 with 8 homers and 6 steals and a pretty decent on-base percentage. So, I mean, I think that's obviously, you would think you'd want a little bit more power out of the guy, but really, he's been a pretty solid all-around player, and the veteran that he is. So, yeah, I think the Brewers could have done a lot worse. And obviously, it's a very little risk in that contract since it's only a 1-year deal. So yeah, obviously I think he just fit the mold of what the Brewers were willing to pay for the production, and get it in a short term, I think was a key for him, and not have to sign some up. So it really just goes back to when the Brewers did sign Christian Yelich. It was kind of like tagging him as our franchise player for the next 8 years, and that we were going to kind of build around him, and knowing that we had a really young pitching staff coming up, we were going to have a pretty much on the cheap. It really seemed to make sense at the time. Obviously, Christian Yelich, MVP, days were, I don't want to say that they're over, but it's hard to see him going back to the player that he was in those, that season and the following season. His first 2 years as a Brewer, where he put up phenomenal numbers. But with that being said, Craig Counsell has finally found a place for him at the top of the order as a leadoff hitter, and he's been really hitting well in the last month also. And I believe that that's the role that he'll continue to serve as the Milwaukee Brewers. I think he'll find value there, and hopefully he'll turn it around a little bit. But yeah, obviously it makes sense that the Brewers are not, go out for one of those free agents. But what that's led us to is kind of have a patchwork offense. When the versatility of guys that we do have on the bench, like Jace Peterson, has helped us kind of keep this offense band-aided together, so to speak. And with our good pitching has allowed us to stay in first place. But it's obviously all Brewer fans know that the Brewers will have to acquire at least one bat, you would think, here in the next couple of weeks prior to the August 5th trade deadline, if we want to stay in first place going forward. Do you agree with that, Scott?
Stearns has come out and said that we're pretty much going to dance with who brought us. I think it's a total lie, but I don't know. I would like to think that we need at least one more bat for depth. I mean, especially now when we have you have a DH. So literally, even if you have two guys that play the same position and they can both hit, you can still keep them both in the lineup. So it definitely allows for a little bit more versatility, and I think we have to. I also would not be surprised at all if we get at least one more bullpen arm. I think that if you're in playoff contention, you should trade for a reliever, no matter what. So I would think that we would hopefully get at least one.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, you could argue that the Brewers really could use more starting pitching depth too. I mean, right now we have Jason Alexander in the rotation, and Aaron Ashby's, looking like a rookie that he is. And obviously you have Ethan Small hanging around, but he also would have to go through some pretty severe rookie growing pains. And I don't know if a first place team can afford to allow him to do them as a starting pitcher.
I mean, we already got TT. So what more do you want? I mean,
yeah, TT.
I don't know.
So no, it wouldn't be.
Who would you rather have, TT or Brett Anderson? Yeah.
Brett Anderson.
Your heart.
Brett Anderson from last year. I don't know Brett Anderson off of his couch for the last 4 months would necessarily be better than Chi-Chi, but I mean, yeah, last year's version of Brett Anderson would be better than Chi-Chi Gonzalez for sure. But anyway, no.
Brett Anderson or Gio Gonzalez?
Gio Gonzalez, didn't he officially retire? He did.
Yeah, but so. I'm
All right, so
not saying we're going to get him.
So in lieu of our normal rapid 9, as we're obviously missing a few of our hosts here, we're going to play a little game with potential trade targets for the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, keep in mind, we're going to mostly focus on offensive guys for this little exercise, but I want you to start off each of these quote unquote innings. I'm going to throw out a potential trade acquisition, and you can expound on your answer a little bit, since this doesn't have to be rapid. But
good.
You can start by calling a hypothetical acquisition of said player as either a extra base knock, which means you would be really excited about it, a single if you're just a little bit excited about it, say a walk if you'd be like meh about it, and a strikeout if you'd be against the trade for said player. So,
okay.
Hey, but before, let's just start it off with the first inning. So, let's start off with Whit Merrifield of the Kansas City Royals, second base / outfielder, right-handed hitting.
This is a tough one because honestly, that is about the biggest bat that I could see the Brewers potentially acquiring. So if I think that this is the top of the mountain, I would say that would be like a home run, right? But I don't want to lead off with that. So I think there's some real potential here.
Home run's not an option.
Come here for a couple years. Oh, okay.
Just an extra base hit.
All right, I'll actually say an extra base hit. I feel like I'm a little scared about doing that right off the bat because I don't know what else is next. But that would be, as far as bats go, that's about as close as I think we're gonna get.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be able to acquire him, but I'll just call it a single. I think it'd move the needle, but he doesn't expect that much. All right, third base / I think you play outfield from the Cincinnati Reds, right-handed hitting Brandon Drury. He's having a boring all-star numbers this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a single because Drury, I don't know. First of all, he's a Brewer killer. Second of all, every time, like, he's having a great year, but he hasn't exactly shown a lot of that so far. So, not saying that he's going to regress or anything like that, but it'd be a nice get. I'll say a single.
Okay. Yeah, I say a single too. I'm kind of a fan, but I'm not sure if the Reds will trade to us, and we'd have to give up much for him. But yeah, Drury. Okay. Third player here, first base / outfield, switch hitting Josh Bell from the Washington Nationals.
I think I would say that would be an extra base hit also because, first of all, first base is still not our strongest position. He is a switch hitter, which gives him kind of some lineup versatility. I'm sure they would love that. So, yeah, I think that'd be a really good get.
Yeah, I agree. An extra base hit, and he's probably one of the best names out there that'd be in our range of affordability. Fortunately, I have a bad feeling that we wouldn't be able to meet his trade value asking price, so to speak. So let's move on to the next outfielder from the A's, right-handed hitting center fielder Ramon Laureano.
Oh man, see, this is another position of need for me, and I've been talking about him for a while, so I'd have to say I'll have to still say an extra base hit. That would be a pretty good win for us. I should probably just say a single, but I'll say extra base hit only because I've been talking about him for a while.
No, I also agree that would be extra base hit. I think be obviously Keane stepping, basically retiring, Tyrone Taylor kind of being injured right now and not having much experience. I think targeting a center fielder would be pretty huge. And but Laureano, yeah, I would call it extra base hit. I think adding him anywhere in the lineup would be nice. He's got some power, speed, and plays great defense in center field. There's not much you can ask for a player that I don't know how much they'll cost, but I think we could possibly afford him. All right, next free agent. I'm sorry, not free agent. Trade potential. Actually, the next two are from the Orioles. Let's start with this one. Anthony Santander, outfielder for the Orioles. Like will it be sellers?
I don't know, man. The Orioles are at 500 now. They might like the idea of locking a couple of these guys up. Isn't that crazy? Orioles at 500 this late in the year in that division. I'm proud of them. I'd say a single.
Santander is a switch hitter. I'm gonna call him a walk. I don't think he moves the needle much either way. He's a solid player, but he's someone I don't like. So it's a good possibility he would probably be our acquisition because that's usually what happens. But I'll say a walk with him. It doesn't really move the needle for our offense. I don't believe. All right, up next, fellow Oriole, Trey Mancini, outfield / first baseman, just like Josh Bell, hit right-handed, has some pop.
Yeah. I'll give him a single. I mean, it certainly helps. It's a position of need. He's a good hitter. You kind of know what you're getting at this point. So, yeah, single.
Yeah. Well, I'd actually give him an extra base hit on him. I mean, I think he's a really solid hitter. He's 30 years old. I'm going to give him extra base hit. I'd be pretty happy with that acquisition. Just based on the names that are out there. So, okay, next.
When you said two Orioles, I thought you were going to say Mountcastle for one of them, but I was like, all right.
Definitely not available.
But it didn't come up.
Definitely not available unless we're willing to give up one of our arms, which I don't want us to be. All right, next. This is kind of a change of scenery candidate. In fact, the next couple of ones, we're going to go over a change of scenery candidates from the state of New York. We're going to go over three of them. Let's start with the Mets outfield / first base, Dominic Smith.
I think there's some potential there, but I don't want to say strikeout. I guess I would just say like a walk. It's kind of like a meh, because to me, I don't know. To me, I think of who would be a good change of scenery candidate for us, and like who has any value for us, and I think of like a Keston type, and I was just like, he kind of reminds me of him in that he started off, he was pretty good in his early years, and then kind of leveled out and dipped a little. So I don't know. I'll say meh. I mean, he's got all the talent, but I just don't. If he hasn't put it together by now, I just don't think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he is 27 years old, which means he could have a breakout or something, but he's not having it. So I'm going to call it a strikeout. I don't think it would move the needle at all. In fact, I'm not even sure if I would give up one of our current roster spots for him. So I'd definitely call it a strikeout. And it's crazy because he had a good year last year, but this year he's hitting 210 with no homers or no steals. And he actually got sent to the minor leagues for a period of time. So, I mean, I think he'd be available, but I just don't know where we even give him that bats. The fact that he plays also positions that we don't necessarily need, corner, outfield, or first base or DH, That doesn't really do it for me either. So I'll go with I'm not interested. So all right, moving on to a couple other New York guys. Now these are change of senior candidates. Let's start with Joey Gallo from the Yankees.
Doesn't he already have a big contract?
No, he's actually in his last year of contract of his
somehow that's
arbitration eligibility. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah, that somehow that's even worse to me because I'd like someone who would be here to help us next year also, at least next year, because that's at least as long as like Hader's under contract and like I don't know. I just think he has so much value to this team. But
most of the guys I'm mentioning are impending free agents, actually. But not all of them. Not all of them. Dominic Smith, I think, has some control in Santander too. But most of these guys are pending free agents. I know Mancini. Well, most of the guys I mentioned are. But yeah, Joey Gallo is also a pending free agent. So.
All right, Joey Gallo. Okay, so hasn't hit for average lately. Usually hits a ton of bombs. Like swings for the fences all the time. He'll fit right in. So no, I don't need another Joey Gallo. I feel like every single one of our hitters is trying to do a Joey Gallo impression when they're there.
So what's your call on this guy?
I don't want to say strikeout though. That because like even getting Gallo, like the problem is that we don't have time for these guys to figure it out. We can't just throw them out there and be like, all right, don't worry, you have time to figure it out. Like, nope, we need to win now. We like all I keep thinking about is, oh, and this is Poole's last year or whatever. And this is Yadier Molina's last year. So I guess St. Louis has to make the playoffs. Like, if St. Louis makes the playoffs, there's a very real chance that the Brewers don't, and that can't happen. So I don't know. I'm just gonna say meh. I'll say it's a walk for Gallo.
All right, I'll give him a single just because I think that he could flourish if he gets himself out of New York in a hitter's park with like AmFam field with a short right field porch, so to speak. And I'll just the reason I gave it a single over walk is because I think that he also has some experience in center field, so he'd give us some more value just based off how he fits in our lineup. I believe at least. So anyway, another change of pace possible trade candidate out of the New York Yankees, and that's outfield / third base right-handed hitting Miguel Andujar.
I'm just gonna say meh.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot to add on this. I don't know. Like,
well, he is 27-year-old, like Dominic Smith. He's 27 years old. Has had really like one season of success in the majors, just like Dominic Smith. He's right-handed hitting, whereas Dominic Smith is left-handed. I actually think he's got more potential than Dominic Smith, so I'll give him a single because I think he could flourish with everyday at bats. Once again, I mean he's kind of been derailed by injury and also just not having spots on the Yankees roster for at bats. Kind of almost like he's kind of like they're in limbo, like Keston, like where they had some potential and promise for him, but really because of injury and lack of production, he hasn't had regular at bats to get himself back in the groove and prove himself. So a change of scenery could help. However, if you ask me if I trade him straight up for Keston here, I'd probably say no, because I think Keston's got a slightly higher ceiling and is slightly younger. But anyway, yeah, I'll give him a single because I think that could be an interesting ad, and it might be in the realm of a out of left field type acquisition that Stearns and company could pull off. So I'll go with that. Okay.
By the way, breaking news for only you and me, because by the time anyone hears this, they're already going to know. But the Brewers did beat the Twins tonight.
Wonderful. And if you're watching, and it's the All-Star break, they didn't beat the Twins that night. But yeah, awesome. All right, well, still a 2-game lead in first place, the Milwaukee Brewers, as of this taping. All right. Okay, here's one of your favorites, and currently on the Oakland A's, second base, right-handed hitting Jed Lowry.
I think that Jed Lowry is like I think I said like he's the quintessential like Stearns player. Like he plays everywhere, switch hitter. Like I actually think he could bring some good veteran leadership to this team, and that we may have lost when Kane left. So I'm going to say single. It probably should be meh, but I'm going to say single anyway.
I'll give him a walk. He's just, yeah, he's 38 years old, and he's almost got a fork sticking in him, I think. But anyway, let's stick on another let's actually start with another Nationals coming up. We already did Josh Bell. Second baseman, Cesar.
Juan Soto. Just kidding.
Cesar Hernandez.
Nah.
So a walk?
That's it. Yeah, I'll give it a walk. I don't know. I guess it'd be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just give him a walk, just same as you. He had a nice year last year for our Guardians or whatever they were called last year, and this year he has no home runs in 241. Yeah, I mean he's a right-handed hitter, and he could. And no, not going to move any needles. Okay.
I kind of really want a guy who's having a good offensive year this year to add to our offense. I mean, obviously, like I don't. If somebody could come here, and have a good offensive season, and then they can come here and just play like a piece of scope or whatever. They could just have like a bad year.
Before I get to the next guys, name one former Brewer from any position that's currently on another roster that you would like for the Brewer, that you would want the Brewers to reacquire.
Jonathan Scope redeems himself, and no, not him. Did you say any position, or were you looking for something specific?
Yeah, in any position, hitter, pitcher, reliever. Just if you could add just magic wand, add one former Brewer back to the roster. I mean, yeah, obviously you could pick someone who's not on a team like Brett Anderson if you want. Just a former Brewer that could either be traded for or signed to help this squad make their World Series run. Who would you go for?
Former Brewer. Do we have any fast former Brewers? Like, I feel like we need a little bit of speed, a little bit more speed on this team. But I can't think of anyone. Not Segura, not VR.
Let me just rattle off a bunch of former Brewers. You already mentioned a couple of them. Segura, Jonathan Scope, obviously. We've got
Eric Sogard. What's he doing?
No. Jesus Aguilar.
I don't even know. Is he in baseball right now? I don't know.
No, he's done. Nelson Cruz, Jesus Aguilar, Garrett Cooper, Brad Miller, Dan Vogelback, Ben Gamel. Let's get to some pitchers. Wade Miley, Jordan Lyles, Jorge Lopez, Julio Chacin. The list goes on.
Almost all of those would be strikeouts by our previous rating system. But I'd give a single to Aguilar. I think we're not that great against lefties, and I feel like he could help with that a little, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, for that same reason, I would give it to, and I called him a former Brewer, but actually he was a former Brewer prospect that we had traded. And that's Garrett Cooper, the teammate of Aguirre.
Oh, yeah.
Right-handed hitter, and he's hitting over 300 this year. He does have some power.
Yeah.
He absolutely murders.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
He murders lefties, which is where the Brewers kind of are failing right now, and kind of the sole reason we brought in Mike, Brosseau or whatever. So I mean,
Birkbeck. Oh, wrong way.
So anyway, well, getting back to our roundabout thing, let's go over a couple of these guys. Obviously, a lot of the guys I listed are just like meh, walk, strikeout, whatever you want to call them. I mean, I don't want any part of Brad Miller. Obviously, Gamble and Dan Vogelback aren't coming back and whatever. So, but anyway, let's focus on. Let's talk about Nelson Cruz, right-handed batter who could probably only play DH though.
That definitely limits it, especially because, well, you'd have to have like 1 day a week where you give him a day off at least, and then you let McCutchen DH that day or something. Because I don't know that we can trot an outfield out there with Yelich and McCutchen. McCutchen's getting older. They were talking about how he wasn't even going to hardly play any outfield this year. And Yelich, while not old, has not a particularly great outfielder at this stage of the game already.
And he did get scratched from today's game because of a bad back, which he's got a history of. So,
oh, great!
All the reasons you mentioned, even though prior to the season I would have been very excited about Nelson Cruz being added at the trade deadline, I just don't know that he's a great fit right now. But that being said, I'd say it'd still be a solid single because I mean he's super productive with the bat wherever you put him.
Yeah,
and he's a borderline Hall of Famer. So I mean, what
professional hitter?
And I don't know he had cost very much, both in salary or trade. So I would say a solid single, but not an extra base hit.
I'd be thrilled to have it. It would be very weird though if like Kane leaves the team and then Nelson Cruz joins the team. Like that's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we can afford to give away our DH position, even if it's an bad upgrade like that. So
Garrett Cooper, though, I mean, that would be as close to a home run as we could probably get.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go over him next then. Garrett Cooper. So you're calling him extra base hit, and then yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, I heard that the Yankees are also interested in him, so we'll probably have to pay up somehow to get him, even in his walk here.
Well, the Yankees get him and Josh Bell. I mean, no, I guess they can't have both, right? So maybe we can get in on the other one.
Seems like there are a lot of corner outfield / first baseman on this list that we're rattling off, but anyway, we just need a bat no matter where we can stick him in the lineup, really, besides just solely DH. But Garrett Cooper has outfield, first base experience. So, I mean, ideally, we really need more center field depth, to be quite honest. And there's not very many guys on this list besides Lariano that makes sense. And I know more, Gallo or Merrifield might be able to play some center, but I don't know. So, yeah, I'd be excited.
Seems unlikely.
Extra base hit for Garrett Cooper for me as well. Moving on to Jesus Aguirre. I think he's going to be available. The Marlins are going to be out of it most likely. Right-handed hitting masher, but he's already been on the Brewers. Is he any better than Keshihira or Tellez? What's your call on him, Scott?
Well, the fact that he mashes lefties is reason enough to have him. I mean, I think that's really what we need right now, because I don't know, I just don't. We haven't done a great job hitting lefties this year, and we really need to shore that up. And I think that would be a solid piece to the puzzle. If not Aguirre, just some bat hits lefties. Bring Ryan Braun out of retirement.
So where do you give him a single?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be slightly excited if we acquired him. I mean, for the fact that I know that he can hit, like you said, he profiles in my mind as a number 3 or 4 hitter, and I feel that that's what we're lacking on this team. However, I'd rather just bring in some fresh blood, so to speak, and not regurgitate what we already know. You know, it kind of is what he is type of thing. And I just don't think he can't play anywhere besides first place or DH. So again, that really limits the versatility, which I know is valuable, especially come playoff time. So I don't know that he'd be the perfect fit, but I mean, it's better than nothing, so to speak. And I'm sure that now that I've pretty much come to the end of my list here, I'm sure there are plenty of other players out there that will be available or will even be traded, and possibly whoever the Brewers acquire wasn't even on this list. But yeah, we'll see. I just think that we can't stand pat and do nothing. That we've got to add something to our offense, and like you said, we're likely to add a bullpen arm or even a starter. Just to throw out a couple of names that'd probably be available for the bullpen. Well, we already mentioned Jorge Lopez, who's saving a lot of games for the Orioles, but I don't think that he's necessarily great. I mean, the Diamondbacks have a couple of nice relievers, and Ian Kennedy or Joe Mantiply. Daniel Bard is probably going to be available from the Rockies. Michael Fulmer from the Tigers. Plenty of bullpen arms from other teams as well. If you're looking at starters, someone like Michael Lorenzen from the Angels kind of intrigues me. Paul Blackburn is probably someone that will acquire because it's someone I don't like. Let's see.
I'd love to have him on our team. That'd be an extra base hit for me.
Or Chad Kuhl. Damn it. Or Chad Kuhl of the Rockies. He'd be another strikeout for me. It'd probably be an extra base hit for you, Scott. Yeah, I just,
at least a single.
Yeah. The Brewers.
What about also another bat? I think this one is a Brewer fanatic. Someone threw it out. I think like Andrew Benintendi.
Yeah, well, we're going to be outbid for him is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I'd be absolutely shocked. Obviously, if we got him, he'd be an extra base hit, but I think that the other teams that have a lot more in their farm system and are willing to part with it than us, like the Yankees or Dodgers or whoever, like they're going to outbid us for him. So unfortunately, that's more of a pipe dream acquisition, especially since he's under for a while.
I completely agree. I just wanted to throw it out there because obviously it was brought up, and I think we should have a couple of those like moon and star signings. Like, I mean, when Lorenzo Cain signed with us, I was like pretty surprised actually. Like, I didn't think that we'd be able to get him. I thought he'd have better offers, but apparently not. So I guess it can happen once in a while, but fun to dream.
I guess throwing out one more name out there as a change of scenery, or just an example of you can acquire a somewhat quality player, but you wouldn't have to give up very much prospect capital to get him because you'd have to pay the rest of his contract, which is just ending this year, and that's Will Myers from the Padres. But you're talking about dealing with another contender that's also in the same league as you, but he's owed $22 million this year. So what you'd pay, whatever, 2/3 if you acquire him just before August 5th, you just be paying 2/3 of that. So basically, I should say 1/3 of that salary, probably about $7.5 million for the remainder of the season of Will Myers. And I think he has a 1-year buyout for his contract option next year or something. So basically, you're talking about $8 million or $8 to $9 million just for 2 months of Will Myers, but you would have to hardly give anything up for him. Does that do anything for you, Scott?
I think to most people it would probably be a meh, like a walk. I don't know. I guess I'd give it a single. It doesn't. On one hand, I think, well, I really wanted someone that could crush righties, but I also thought, I don't know, Will Myers' bat. On one hand, I feel like his bat isn't that great. On the other hand, probably be like the second best bat in our lineup. But no, I mean, no, we need offense, so I'll say single.
Yeah,
I don't think he's a great.
I've always been a Will Myers fan. I think that he could, with a change of scenery, he could, have a nice end of this. He just seems like someone like last year's Eddie Rosario. If someone actually acquired him, he would like take off like gangbusters if he just got himself out of San Diego or something. But with that being said, I don't know if the owner would rather give up a couple prospects or more so over giving up $9 million for a couple months. But so we're likely will target someone else, but I'm sure the Padres would be open to moving him if someone were willing to go that route. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting name to throw out there, but I really think it'll just be someone complete. The names that players that we do acquire here in the next couple of weeks will probably be somewhat surprising and maybe not even on this list, which you'll see.
Yeah, it should be interesting. We went over a lot of names, but I just don't know. Like, we should probably do this for arms too one of these weeks. Like,
maybe when we get Vince back, maybe next week. Obviously, we still have 3 or 4 more weeks to the deadline. So yeah, I think there'll be some activity. And
arms are difficult though, because I mean, after like Hunter Strickland, like, was just terrible, and then he comes over here and he's just a world beater. And we just had, like, it felt like last year we just had, no matter who it was, they were going to come out and pitch lights out. And I think that's one of the biggest differences between this year and last year is that, like, you know how we kind of have a split where, like, when we're winning, we have, Williams and Hader and, probably what combination of Gott and Boxberger. Like, those are our winners, right? And then I guess Hovey Milner is kind of a tweener at this point. But, like, then when we're losing, we don't let any of those guys pitch. And seems like last year when we were losing, even, like, anyone in our bullpen was really good. But this year, not so much. If you're not one of those, like, 4 or 5 guys in our pen, like, if you're toward the bottom end of our pen, when we're losing, they're not keeping the game particularly close. And there's a couple games that we potentially could have snatched back. But yeah, that bullpen's letting me down a little.
yeah,
Sorry, I just went off on a weird bullpen tangent, but I just thought about that like this week, man. I don't know. All right, let's get back on topic. What are we going to talk about next?
I'm gonna wrap this one up for this week. I guess let's just go over this week, Scott. You let the cat out of the bag that the Brewers won the first game against the Twins. They're 2 games set, and then we end before the All-Star break the so-called first half with a 4-game set in San Francisco against the Giants. What's your prediction for the 6 games for this week?
This is really tough because the Giants play really good at home, and they're not obviously as good as they were last year, but they're usually pretty solid. Honestly, I'd be thrilled with even winning the first game. I would be thrilled if you told me you're going to go on the road and take on the Twins and the Giants. Like 3-3 is, I'd be okay with that. I'd be very happy with that. That's what I think it would be. Nice that we won 1 though already. Now it makes me think 4-2, and it's definitely in the realm. But I'm going to stick with 3-3.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 3-3 as well, hoping for better. But yep. It'll be an interesting segment.
Great start, though.
Looking forward to the All-Star Game festivities and the draft. Is quite a great week to be a baseball fan, if you ask me. So let's hopefully finish off the first half strong and start off the second half in similar fashion. So stay classy, West Dallas, and go Brewers.
Gophers. Da, na, na,